Time was beginning to run out with the approach of winter. Conditions which were unbelievably harsh before would become unremittingly hostile when winter struck in a relatively short while. And with the constant weather delays, a sense of urgency overcame the young Australian team when conditions were good. With Camp 2 well established, it had to be stocked with food and supplies in readiness for the summit push. Fears within the party were put aside, with the realization that now it was all or nothing. The entire team slogged through the lung-straining thin air, consolidating Camp 2, while Lincoln led upwards, setting fixed ropes as high on the mountain as possible.
We left the snow cave at 6 o'clock and went up the ropes that we'd fixed the other day. It was very, very cold though, extremely cold. Hands and feet were just frozen, very painful. And then with the rope that Moran and Tenzing brought up yesterday, we fixed all the way up into the rock band to the right of the Great Couloir, and that's where we ran out of rope. It looks pretty straightforward going from there on, although the avalanche danger, slope danger, is extreme. So,
physically and emotionally drained after the hard slog, Camp 1 is an oasis of warmth, and Naran's pancakes a gourmet's feast. By now, the optimism is bubbling.
Actually, there's a bit of jelly and fruit stuff still in the billy up there.
Is there?
Thank you.
How did it feel anyway at 25,000 feet?
Oh, it felt dreadful. It was so cold this morning. It's hard to know how much is the cold and how much is the altitude. It's pretty bad. Yeah, it really takes it out of you. I mean, it's hard to tell also because when you've been up there for a while, you just sort of tend to get sort of less strong anyway. So it's hard to tell how much is the extra height and how much is the fact of cumulative weakening. Gee, that's a big phrase, isn't it?
It's impressive for you, Lincoln, actually. Yeah. Very good. Did someone write it down for you?
Well, you should have heard me yesterday.
A tactical retreat is called, and the team spends a few days at Advanced Base Camp in the peaceful sunlit valley. They must regain their strength and their mental stamina, focusing their all on the summit. It's a time for reflection.
One of the things about a small trip like ours is the fact that with 5 people, I mean now when the weather is perfect, we're not on the mountain because we're recovering from our efforts of before. It reduces your success having fewer people, reduces your chances of success having fewer people, but it makes it more satisfying if you do succeed.
waiting now wouldn't necessarily achieve anything. What we'll gain in the snow coming off the face, and so a decrease in avalanche danger, will lose by the wind becoming more intense, and the wind up high, if it does increase, will just be horrific. So I think this next week will be a week of making it or breaking it. We'll either climb to the summit or we'll have to retreat and call it a day.
I guess even though there's a lot of unforeseen things that can happen, I've still got this gut feeling that things are going to be okay. I'm quite positive, you know, even though there's a million things that can go wrong.
I think everybody physically is fit enough to get to the top. Really, what the problem is trying to build up enough mental inertia to keep going, just to be able to throw yourself into plod mode and slowly, in a rather bloody-minded way, grind your way to the top. When Messner soloed Everest, he ended up crawling, and I mean, if Messner crawls, then I'm quite prepared to crawl to get to the top. I think it's just going to be bloody hard work.
to make it to the top, it's going to take everything that we've got. And I think that the last few hundred feet to the summit are going to be the hardest thing that I've ever done. And in a way, I find that exciting.
The weather held. Now was the time to move out. But the tranquility of the valley had disguised a change in seasons, because stealthily, autumn had given way to winter. The temperature had dropped, but the snow clouds stayed away. The years of planning, the preparatory climbs, had distilled into this moment. The young Australians knew they were pitting themselves against horrendous odds. Climbing without oxygen, attempting a new route, climbing into an Everest winter. All thought about the lack of oxygen, because reactions were slowed, and the dangers of mountaineering were doubled or trebled in extreme altitudes. Death, they knew, was never far away. At the base of Everest, Lincoln knew he'd come to the end of his tether. The cough which had plagued him for weeks had suddenly degenerated into bronchitis, and each mouthful of frigid air cut into his lungs like a knife. His body was telling him that to go on would place not only himself at risk, but also jeopardize the others. For Greg Mortimer, Lincoln's decision was devastating.
As soon as I sort of take big lungfuls of cold air, I just... I don't know. It could take ages. I mean, when Tim had, I don't know what he had, whether he had bronchitis or what he had, but he wasn't taking antibiotics for it. But when he got a cough just from going up there for a day or two, I mean, it was 8 days before we came back up again. I mean, it was, you know, and we came up later than you because he wanted to hang down an extra day. You know, it's...
Thing is, I think...
Greg knew the team needed Lincoln's strength if they were going to make it. He had to convince him to continue.
Well, I've been thinking of it in terms of 4 of us plugging steps. I don't think Geoff will go past Camp 3.
Don't you?
I still reckon we've only got one hit. We've got the strength for one hit.
Yeah,
Nothing more. Once we do tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we've got strength for a few more days after that.
Yeah.
And that's it. So when we go, it's got to be right.
Yeah.
Otherwise we'll blow it.
Yeah. I mean, Andy's just have to bloody pull his finger out. And if you have a good talk to him tonight, or up there, at Camp 2, you know, he will.
The stark realization that Lincoln is determined to stop is shattering.